Dr. Takagi will be giving a news conference on the medical reasons of the emperor's death.
The officials of the ruling Liberal Democratic Party as well as the government have come to the Imperial Palace. Shortly, we will have a report from the Prime Minister's official residence. As soon as we have a report from the Crown Prince's home, then we will have the live report from there too. This is the Prime Minister's official residence. After 5 minutes past 8, the cabinet members are rushing to the office. The first emergency cabinet meeting will be held at 8:15, but it has not started because some members have not arrived yet. As Mr. Obuchi said earlier, the cabinet will prepare the official statement on the death of the emperor by the Prime Minister. Also, there are several procedures that must be taken. Also, the cabinet meeting will decide the new name for the era to follow Showa. Finally, the last member of the cabinet has just arrived, so the cabinet meeting will start in a few minutes. Since the emperor passed away, the new emperor will succeed, and there are various ceremonies to be taken. The cabinet needs to clarify whether these ceremonies have to be held as state ceremonies. So this matter will also be discussed at the cabinet meeting. The cabinet meeting, which was supposed to be held at 8:15, is likely to be held in a few minutes. The cabinet ministers are wearing a coat, jacket, morning jacket, and also they are wearing the black armbands. In order for the public to express their sorrow for the death of the emperor, the public is encouraged to refrain from using music and hoist the national flag at the half-mast.
At 7:55 this morning, there were simultaneous news conferences by the Chief Cabinet Secretary and by the Grand Steward announcing that His Majesty the Emperor had passed away this morning at 6:33. We have Mr. Hashimoto, our reporter, in the studio, as well as Mr. Shimizu.
We would like to know more about the government's response.
Well, as far as the Foreign Ministry is concerned, they are giving this news out to foreign governments and delegations as quickly as possible. In other words, to foreign embassies in Tokyo, so that they can relay this message to their home countries. Also, the Foreign Ministry is giving this news out to Japanese embassies overseas to receive morning calls from the government and business leaders of these countries. As for LDP, they have started an emergency top official meeting a while ago in order to officially express their mourning.
We just had a report from the Prime Minister's office and also had a report from Mr. Shimizu. I would like to wrap up this. The government has begun an emergency cabinet meeting at 8:15 to decide several matters that need to be decided. And the cabinet is going to decide the new name of the era within today. The Chief Cabinet Secretary said that the cabinet meeting will handle the official matters that should be included in the accession of the new emperor will be announced in the official gazette. Among the ceremonies concerning the succession of a new emperor, there are 3 symbols as well as 2 stamps belonging to the emperor. At the Imperial Household Agency, there will be a ceremony to hand over these materials to the new emperor, and the chiefs of the 3 offices of the government will attend this ceremony. The cabinet intends to ask public agencies to restrain songs and dances for 6 days in order to establish mourning, and the Hinomaru flag will be flown at half-mast. The cabinet also intends to ask private citizens to restrain songs and dance for 2 days. The cabinet will then hold a meeting with various people to listen to what they have to say about a name for the new era. Then I will hear the opinions of the Speaker of the lower house and the President of the upper house. The final decision will be made at a cabinet meeting. The knowledgeable people will be asked to list several candidates of the names, and under the direction of Prime Minister, the Chief Cabinet Secretary and the Cabinet's Legislature Bureau Chief will finalize the name of the final list of the candidate names, and then the final decision will be made at a cabinet meeting. The government also hopes to decide on the new era name as soon as possible. Therefore, they have requested that the possible name for the new era be submitted. The new era name that will become after Showa will be decided sometime today. Tomorrow will be the beginning of the first new day under the new era name.
Now, as for the state funeral, it will be held from within 40 to 50 days after the emperor's death, and it will be held at Shinjuku Gyoen in Tokyo, just as it was when Emperor Taisho passed away. Also, as for this state funeral, the government says that he will have a cabinet meeting tomorrow and a special committee for the state funeral, and will discuss more details at this meeting. However, following the example of the demise of the Emperor Taisho, it will be held within 40 to 50 days after the death of the emperor at the Shinjuku Gyoen in Tokyo. When Emperor Taisho died away, it followed a Shinto ritual. However, since with the new constitution, no religious ceremonies are really allowed, they will not be following the Shinto ritual in the sense they were followed at the death of the Taisho emperor. We have Mr. Hashimoto again. The emperor was in bed for more than 100 days, ill in bed for more than 100 days. Yes. Now, I think the most noteworthy thing about the announcement that was made at 7:55, reporting that the emperor died at 6:33, the Grand Steward said that it was the cancer of the duodenum, the cancer of the gland. In other words, it officially admitted that the emperor was suffering from malignant tumor. This was the first time that the family, the Imperial Household Agency, had officially admitted this. The emperor underwent surgery, intestinal surgery, in September 1987, but the Imperial Household Agency kept on insisting that his illness was the pancreatitis. But already at that time, the Tokyo University medical team, who did pathological studies of his tissues, knew that some cancerous tissues were in the sample. And they relayed this message to the Imperial Household Agency. But the Imperial Household Agency refrained from making this announcement official because they did not want the emperor to know that he was suffering from cancer. But now that the emperor has passed away, the Imperial Household Agency has finally, for the first time, officially acknowledged that the cause of his death was the duodenum cancer. Now, as far as the duodenum is concerned, it's very closely connected to pancreas. So we do not know whether the cancer originated actually from duodenum or from pancreas. It's very difficult to really separate from which. But the Tokyo University medical doctors say that they believe that the cancer originated in duodenum rather than in pancreas. And with this cancer, the emperor suffered from high fever, also from jaundice and internal bleeding. And he has suffered from these three symptoms severely since September last year. For example, the high fever, on the 24th of September, he ran high temperature of 39 degrees. And so the court physicians began to administer different types of antibiotics to bring his fever down. Again, on the 5th to 6th of October, his fever went up to 38.3. They again shifted to another type of antibiotics. But you cannot use antibiotics for a long time because it would have adverse effect on other bodily organs like kidneys. Again, so they stopped giving him antibiotics for some time, but in December, when he ran the fever again, they administered antibiotics again. But since then, the fever dropped, and so they have not been using antibiotics for some weeks. However, the major problem was the lack of nourishment he was getting. And when you do not get enough nourishment, your bodily temperature can go down. So yesterday, for example, his temperature was as low as 35.8 degrees. Now, fever was not the only problem. The emperor was suffering from symptoms of jaundice as well since the mid-September last year. Symptoms of jaundice were becoming increasingly clear since then. According to Grand Steward's announcement, he was suffering from obstructed jaundice. Now, the pancreas was swollen, and because it was swollen, the bile could not pass through the bile duct. And so the toxic substances in the bile began to circulate in his body, and this in turn had given bad adverse effect to his bodily functions. Now, for example, liver function can deteriorate. And when the liver function deteriorates, it cannot break down ammonia in blood. And when ammonia level increases in blood, it can have bad effect on the emperor's consciousness. In other words, comatose state or slipping in and out of consciousness. Now, on the 5th of December last year, again, the emperor had bled massively, profusely. And since then, emperor's consciousness began to fail rapidly. He did respond to doctors once in a while, but for most of the time, the emperor stopped responding to what's going on around him. Now, an emergency meeting of the cabinet members have started at the Imperial Household, at the Prime Minister's official office. The meeting began at 8:22. What are they discussing? It is supposed to take about 20 minutes, so it will be over in several minutes now. First of all, Prime Minister Takeshita will inform the members of the cabinet that the
emperor has passed away and the new emperor has just succeeded. And also, they are now discussing the content of the official statement by the government. And they are handling the procedures to include this information in the official gazette. Also, they decide that the new emperor will reside in the Fukiage Palace. Then the cabinet members will decide that several ceremonies concerning the succession of a new emperor be held as state ceremonies. Mostly, there are several ceremonies in the succession of the new emperor, and these two are going to be made the state ceremonies. Also, then the cabinet will decide on the new name of the era to follow Showa. As for the expression of the mourning feelings, the public offices will mourn for 6 days, and the private sectors will mourn for 2 days by hoisting the Hinomaru flag at half-mast. According to the Era Name Act in 1979, the Prime Minister will ask scholars to people a new era name. And the procedures have been revised since 1979, which is to include a conference with the knowledgeable people. And therefore, the cabinet members cannot immediately decide on one name. So there will be more emergency cabinet meetings to follow. In any event, the new era name will be decided before tomorrow, and tomorrow will be the first day of the new era. As far as the current first emergency meeting is concerned, the matters discussed, the matters that I just cited are now under discussion. So in a few minutes, the Prime Minister's official statement will be released. That was a live report from the Prime Minister's official residence on the emergency cabinet meeting at 8:22. We have a political affairs reporter, Mr. Shimizu.
Well, as for Foreign Minister Sosuke Uno, who is in Paris now, Mr. Takeshita has sent a message saying that he should stay in Europe and perform all his duties and fulfill the aims of his trip to Europe. In other words, the Foreign Minister Uno is attending an international conference on the chemical weapons. Prime Minister Takeshita would like Foreign Minister Uno to keep on attending that conference, and also to meet Foreign Minister of Soviet Union Shevardnadze for the planned ministerial talks. Prime Minister Takeshita says that the visit by Mr. Uno to Europe this time is a very important one, and that therefore he should fulfill his mission there. In other words, he is not coming back. That is right. He will remain in Europe and attend the conferences and fulfill his duty as foreign minister there. At 8:15 this morning, the Secretary General of LDP, Shintaro Abe, expressed his views to the press, saying that he is deeply saddened by the death of His Majesty, but Japan should keep on doing all its best for the country and for the world. This is really the Togu Palace, the gate to the Crown Prince's residence. Now, Prince Akihito, now new Emperor Akihito of Japan, he will soon be leaving here to go to the Imperial Palace. Now, As for the court physician, chief court physician Akira Takagi, he will be giving his official interview about the cause of the emperor's death in half an hour or so, starting at 9 or 9:30. And also official ceremony to transfer the power, that is the three sacred treasures, will be performed shortly, starting at 10 o'clock. These three sacred treasures will be transferred to the new emperor Akihito.
The emergency meeting of the cabinet has just ended at 8:37. Therefore, Prime Minister is expected to release official statement in a few minutes. The cabinet ministers finished their first session of the emergency meeting. So the matters to follow will take place as in accordance with the new constitution. The new emperor Akihito will leave his residence, Togu Palace, to the imperial palace. Coming back to an earlier subject, the emperor suffered in the sick bed for more than 100 days. The major difference occurred on September 19th, and since then he's been in bed more than 100 days, and there have been ups and downs. We commented on the jaundice symptoms as well as his fevers. The Grand Steward of the Imperial Household Agency cited several reasons of the illness, and the main cause was the cancer in the area of the connection between the duodenum and the pancreas. And there was a bleeding from the duodenum area due to ulceric tissues. Also, the bile flow was obstructed in the bile duct, and this caused a large vomiting of the blood on September the 19th, and gradually his condition was worsened. Right now, the new Emperor Akihito is leaving his residence. Or not yet, a patrol police car was coming out, so we thought they are coming out, but it seems that the Crown Prince is still inside. Coming back to the Emperor's condition, if the Emperor had this kind of illness when he was younger, the doctors could have cut out the pancreatic, a swollen area of the pancreatis, or could insert a tube to take out the obstructed bile. However, these measures could not be taken because of the old age. So the doctors could only give blood transfusions, intravenous drippings, and give medications. And these are the only measures that the doctors could take in the past 100 days. As far as the bleeding is concerned, there have been many episodes of bleeding, and each time the blood pressure dropped, and blood transfusion saved the Emperor each time. However, on Thursday, the Emperor's body was not responding well to the blood transfusion that was given after his blood pressure dropped significantly. And then this morning, finally, his blood pressure dropped to nil. Also, we heard the word uremia. The uremia is also caused by the lower blood pressure because there is not sufficient blood circulation, and not enough circulation of blood means not enough insufficient circulation of oxygen, and this prevents the pancreas and other organs from functioning properly. The emperor's kidney was functioning about 50% of normal capacity until last year. So the doctors were calling the situation as insufficient functioning of the kidney. However, overnight, the New Year's Eve, the emperor was not urinating at all, and his condition improved slightly. But on Thursday, he had it was very difficult for the emperor to urinate, and was developing the serious symptoms of uremia, and this caused other malfunctioning of other organs. However, the very original cause of the emperor's illness was the cancer in the duodenum and the pancreas connection area, but there have been many other symptoms developed as a result, and that weakened emperor's vascular system, which prevented emperor's entire body from responding well to the blood transfusion and the new blood that, however well his heart is sending blood over to his body. And the emperor's blood pressure dropped significantly, and finally he passed away.
Now, the new Emperor Akihito is expected to leave the Togu Palace shortly, heading for the Imperial Palace. Now, the white patrol bikes will be leading the way to the Imperial Palace. So the patrol bikes, the white bikes, have started, and so both the Crown Prince and Princess were at the bedside when the Emperor died. They then returned to the Togu Palace and changed, and now they are going back to the Imperial Palace again. Starting at 10 o'clock, there will be a ceremony for the transfer of the imperial power from the late emperor to the new Emperor Akihito by transferring 3 sacred treasures. Now, the new Emperor Akihito is now using a new car designated for the emperor, no longer the car for Crown Prince. He is now heading for the Imperial Palace. He usually takes the Aoyama Avenue, but this morning he is taking another road. He is passing close to the guest house, the government guest house, and going towards the Hanzomon Gate. In other words, the new emperor used the main gate of the Togu Palace to leave instead of the side gate which he usually uses. So he is taking a different route to the Imperial Palace this morning to attend this special ceremony for the transfer of power, or the transfer of reign from the former emperor to the new emperor. The main gate is to be used for this ceremony, to enter the Imperial Palace for this ceremony. We now have the new Emperor Akihito. He left the Togu Palace just about a minute ago, heading for the Imperial Palace. And now he will be entering the Imperial Palace through the Hanzomon Gate. The new Emperor Akihito. Now this expression, the new emperor, is used because by the death of the former emperor, Crown Prince automatically becomes the emperor without going through any ceremony. he ascends the throne automatically by the death of the former emperor. And so at 633, Crown Prince Akihito became Emperor Akihito automatically by the death of the emperor. The car is passing by the state guest house, heading towards Akasaka Mitsuke, and using the Aoyama Dori, the avenue, the car will enter the Imperial Palace through the Hanzomon Gate. This has been really the route they have been taking to pay the daily visit to the emperor. As for the special ceremony for accession to be held soon, the rank of the emperor really becomes automatically transferred to Crown Prince. However, they do need this special ceremony really to confirm legally, really, what in fact had already taken place by the death of the emperor. Now,
anything from Mr. Shimizu, a reporter? From 8:50, there will be an official announcement again. This has been the announcement that will be made from the cabinet meeting that is being held. Then Prime Minister Takeshita will then go to the Imperial Palace together with the Supreme Court Justice. The new Akihito Emperor is now moving towards the Imperial Palace, is moving past the Miyakizaka Hill. This is from the Prime Minister's residence. Mr. Obuchi, Cabinet Secretary, is going to speak on the recent followings of the ceremonies. We will now move to the Prime Minister's residence. Mr. Obuchi is now seated.
Now, Mr. Obuchi is also already there, but we still do not see Prime Minister Takeshita here. Prime Minister Takeshita will be giving a news conference shortly, and we are expecting him to appear any moment. Mr. Takeshita will report on the decisions made at the cabinet meeting which just ended. I repeat, His Majesty the Emperor passed away at 6:33 this morning at the Fukiage Palace in the Imperial compound. This was announced simultaneously both by the Imperial Household Agency and by the Chief Cabinet Secretary Obuchi at the Prime Minister's official residence. Shortly, Mr. Takeshita will make an official announcement of the death of the Emperor and what will follow now. Mr. Fujimori, the Grand Steward of the Imperial Household Agency, will also give an official announcement about the death of the Emperor, officially report the death of the Emperor. Now, this is from the room where press conference is scheduled. We expect the Prime Minister to appear any moment now. Mr. Obuchi is already there, and Prime Minister Takeshita has appeared. And these are the words by Mr. Takeshita. This is an official remark by Prime Minister. Receiving the news of the death of the Emperor, I was deeply, deeply saddened. We had been hoping with all our heart for the recovery to health by the Emperor, but now upon receiving this sad news, no words can express how deeply, deeply sad we are. to both the new emperor and the empress, as well as to the empress dowager and to the princes and princesses of the imperial household family. We would like to extend our deepest condolences and join with you in sharing your sadness. As for the late Emperor Hirohito became a regent when he was 20 years old, and he acceded to the throne when he was 25, and his reign extended and stretched for 62 years, one of the longest reigns really in this country by a single emperor. Now that we look back upon the past, this era, the Showa era, has been a turbulent era, starting with the Great Depression and going through the Second World War, and this has been marked by difficulties, poverty, and so forth. After the war, there was the massive devastation of the country, but still, out of this devastation, we have succeeded in bringing the country back on its feet and to prosperity. And looking back, we now see this magnificent path that we have tread. All through this time, the late emperor has endeavored for the peace and happiness of the people and of the people in the world as well. And daily, he has performed his duties to this purpose. Now, this great Second World War, which broke out against his will. Now, towards the end of this war, he did decide to renounce and end the war, looking at how people were suffering from the war. So he made this bold decision to end the war in 1945, to end the poverty and suffering of the people and the death and killing of the people. And after the war, when people were shocked with devastation and unhappinesses, he toured around the country trying to encourage people and to incite the people to once again try hard to rebuild the country. All these efforts by the past late emperor, we can never forget. Our country is governed under the new constitution, and under this new constitution, the whole nation has endeavored towards realization of democracy and freedom, and we have successfully achieved this very important position in the world as one of the major countries in the world. Emperor has remained with us all this time as the symbol of the country and of the unity of the country. And this fact has greatly encouraged our people in these hard years of endeavors. The late emperor has been a very fair person, selfless person, a very sincere person. All of us have been deeply impressed by these superior qualities of the late emperor. His achievement will be never forgotten, and they will continue to remain in the hearts and minds of the people, together with his other assets. As for the new emperor, we do hope and we trust that the new emperor will succeed this achievement and walk the path with Japanese people as well as with people throughout the world for the realization of these ideals started by the late emperor. Now, with his accession to the new throne, we trust that the new emperor will gain the love and respect of the Japanese people, while at the same time he will be promoting goodwill and friendship with other countries throughout the world. We are deeply saddened by the death of the emperor. But on behalf of the people and with the people, I would like to express our deepest condolences and wish for the repose of the dead emperor's soul.
That was from the Prime Minister's residence, the official remark by the Prime Minister Takeshita. Now we will have the Chief Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Oguchi's remarks. The official remarks by the Grand Steward, Mr. Fujimori. We will now have the official remarks by Grand Steward Mr. Fujimori very shortly. Prime Minister Takeshita made his official remark, and now we will have the Grand Steward, Mr. Fujimori's remarks very shortly. Oh, this is the Chief Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Oguchi's remarks now. We have decided to make the official ceremony now. Both the Emperor and the Empress, for a while, be held at the Akasaka Palace for a while. We will adhere to that. We will call this the Akasaka Imperial Palace. Nextly, as a national ceremony of mourning, we will be holding that. The ceremonies will be headed by the new emperor as the symbol of Japan. Traditional ceremonies to enthrone the new emperor will be held in a few minutes at the Imperial Palace. The first ceremony will be the Kenjito Shokei no Gi, in which the family sword and jewel, as well as the emperor's seal and the state seal, will be handed over to the new emperor. For the details, the Grand Steward of the Imperial Household Agency will be making the decision. We will be giving you out the details of the ceremonies. We'll be posting them. Nextly, after the enthronement, as a national ceremony, we will be holding a Shokei no Gi. Shokei no Gi, which comes after the ceremony of enthronement. This will be the first official ceremony as taking the position of new emperor. That is where he will be look into the heads of 3 governments, meet with the 3 branches of governments. We have decided on the followings for the ceremonies that will follow. Number 1, This cabinet decision is one which was based on our decision upon the death of the emperor, which we have much respected and hope for his recovery, to express our condolences. We have discussed the procedures that should be taken by our administrative government. Public administrative offices, and we will be asking all of them to cooperate in that manner. Number two, the second item of the cabinet meeting decision. One, as a country or nation, including the day of the passing of the emperor, for 6 days we will be in mourning, and we will refrain from all public activities or ceremonies. We would like to refrain from all public or official ceremonies or activities. For the municipal local governments, including the day of the passing of the emperor, 6 days, we will like for them to abide by the decision laid by the cabinet meeting to pay 6 days of condolences. For other governments, corporations, companies, and in other public affairs also, we hope that for 2 days, including the day of the passing, that we will abide by the first item to be in mourning, and we ask your kind cooperation. Number three, receiving this decision, we have relayed this message to all the ministers as well as the heads of these local and municipal government to abide by these decisions that has been made by the cabinet. Number four,
that was Mr. Obuchi, the Chief Cabinet Secretary. Now, Grand Steward of the Imperial Household Agency, Mr. Fujimori, will give an official remark about the Emperor's death. As for the late Emperor, ever since his operation in 1987, he has been recovering smoothly, and at one stage he has returned to assume official duties. And the entire nation was very relieved to see his quick recovery. However, in September 1988, that is last year, his health began to suffer again, and in spite of his long struggle against this illness, he has finally passed away. This is a deeply saddening thing for all of us. Ever since he took to ill, the royal members of the Imperial Household Agency, including the new emperor and empress, as well as the new empress dowager and members of royal family, we have no doubt, extremely saddened by this new development. The late emperor has been in reign for 62 years, and always the emperor was with the people, and he has hoped and prayed and worked for the peace of the world and happiness of the Japanese people. At the conclusion of the last war, that is Second World War, he made the bold decision and judgment to end the war and declared that Japan was ending the war. After that, the path for reconstruction started for the country, led headed by the emperor. And through these efforts, our country has been able to achieve great success and prosperity and peace. And the country, Japan, is now a very prominent member of the international community. All this really is attributable to the efforts of the late emperor and also to the efforts of the Japanese people who have joined forces with the emperor to reconstruct the country. The late emperor has been a selfless person. He was a very considerate person and a sincere person, and this has won the hearts and mind and love and respect of the people. The Japanese people will never forget the late emperor. Throughout his illness, many Japanese people have registered their names wishing for his quick recovery at the ad hoc registry posts. Millions of people did this, and this goes to show how deeply loved the late emperor was. Since his illness, court physicians have exerted all their efforts for the treatment of his illness. But some things cannot be accomplished by human endeavors. And so, in spite of their efforts, the emperor passed away this morning. For over 1 year already, the business in matters of state has been relegated to the Crown Prince Akihito, now the new Emperor Akihito. And with Prince Akihito performing these duties on behalf of the Emperor Hirohito was able to rest and look after his health at peace. Now, with the death of His Majesty, we would like to express our sincere condolences and sadness.
After the statement of Prime Minister Takeshita, we had the statement by the Grand Steward of the Imperial Household Agency, Mr. Fujimori. Mr. Shimizu, our reporter, was stated in both the statements regarding our Taiko Emperor.
Taiko Tenno, that literally means the emperor who passed away. In other words, it's literally means late emperor, but instead of using the word late emperor, we say deceased emperor. But it literally means really the late emperor.
The fifth daughter of the emperor, Takako Shimazu, said that the emperor passed away very quietly. She met with reporters at 8:20 this morning.
どんなご様子でした？
とてもお静かな
That the emperor passed away very quietly and that the expression on his face had been calm. He was embedded for 100 days. That's correct, she says. He fought very diligently. She said she hopes the emperor will have a good rest at last. This was the statement by the fifth daughter of the emperor, Takako Shimazu, at the time when the emperor passed away. Now we will go back to the Prime Minister's residence.
This is Prime Minister's residence. After the first emergency cabinet meeting, which started at 8:22, which then ended at 8:33, Prime Minister Takeshita made official remarks at 8:55, and at 8:58, Prime Minister Takeshita left for the Imperial Household Agency, we believe, to express his condolences. The government, after this, will be involved in the ceremonies for the transfer of power and transfer of reign, such as Kokugi no Tei. In other words, all cabinet members attend these ceremonies, and so they will be heading for the Imperial Palace too to attend these ceremonies. I think the Prime Minister left a bit earlier in order to register his name in the condolences book. What will be expected in the Prime Minister's residence now? Now, as Mr. Obuchi said, at the first cabinet meeting, they have decided to initiate procedures for selecting the new name for the new era, the new Gengo. So far, up to now, the Gengos were selected by the emperor himself. However, under the new constitution, the new Gengo, the new name for the era, is to be selected, chosen by the government rather than by the emperor himself. And so the government has to initiate these procedures for deciding the new name. Now, first of all, Prime Minister selects people of letters and learning and experience to make some proposals for the new name. And I believe already this prominent man of knowledge and letters, I believe that they have been chosen and that they are working on making proposals for the new name. After these proposals are made, then the Chief Cabinet Secretary will meet with other government officials to decide on government proposal for the new era name, and they will have a panel of meeting later on to make the final decision of what Gengo or what name to choose. Now, in the end, there has to be a cabinet meeting to decide which one is to be chosen. And both the Speaker and President of the two houses will be consulted in choosing the name, but it will be decided finally by the cabinet meeting. And we believe it will be decided within today, and that the new name, the new Gengo, will take effect tomorrow.
総理大臣官邸から今後の動きについてお伝えしました。
Now back to the NHK studio. We have both Mr. Hashimoto and Mr. Shimizu, our reporters. Considering what has been decided at the emergency cabinet meeting, of course, we have heard it through the statement by Mr. Obuchi, the Chief Cabinet Secretary, that there will be 2 governmental national ceremonies plus the private ceremonies by the imperial household. At the same time of enthronement, we have the national ceremony following that. The Gyoji means that at the time of the law is being made, this is one of the state affairs. This will be looked into as the official ceremony. Therefore, both Prime Minister Takeshita and Obuchi will be present at that time. Mr. Shimizu, I believe that the press conference for the Takagi court physician, chief court physician, will hold his press conference soon. He will then be touching on the details of the late emperor's condition. He is the chief court physician, Mr. Takagi, medical supervisor of the imperial household is his official status. As Mr. Shimizu has mentioned about the national ceremonies, another one would be regarding the residence of the new emperor, Akihito. It will be remaining at the Akasaka Togu Palace for a while, and then it will be called the Akasaka Imperial Palace. It writes in Chinese characters the East Palace, and we cannot call it the East Palace anymore, so we call it the Imperial Palace from now on. The late emperor, he at the time of the passing away of the Taisho emperor, the late emperor also moved into the present imperial palace. After a while, therefore, the new emperor and the empress, as well as the new crown prince and other princesses, these family will remain at the Akasaka Palace for a while and will use it as their residence. the Empress will become the Dowager. Nagako Dowager is her new official status, and she will remain at the Imperial Palace. Regarding the naming, or the way we call the late emperor, when the emperor passes away, we will be giving him a name after his descension. We still call the late emperor probably the Showa emperor or Emperor of Showa, but this official naming of the late emperor will not be decided upon until another few days. This is to make the distinction between the new Emperor Akihito and the late emperor. We will use the word Taiko Emperor. Taiko means lately deceased. In our broadcast, we will use the word the late emperor, but this may not be a familiar word, so we will try to use the word late emperor as much as possible in our broadcast. The new Emperor Akihito has left the Akasaka Palace and is now at the Imperial Palace. He left the Akasaka Palace at 8:55. The enthronement may only be attended by the male princesses. Only those who have the right to take on the throne can be present. Thereby, it will only be attended by the crown princesses. Therefore, the new emperor is the only one who has already left the Akasaka Palace for the Imperial Palace. This ceremony will begin from 10 a.m. And we hear that we can place the camera inside the ceremony. So I believe we'll be able to show it through our news coverage. The sword and the jewel that will be the seal, imperial seal, will be passed on. It's a very short, brief ceremony which will most likely only take 5 minutes. This is Mr. Takagi, the chief court physician.
Mr. Takagi says that late August in 1987, the late emperor began to complain that his abdomen felt full and bloated. And on the 13th of September the same year, we conducted an X-ray study of his abdomen and found out that there was an obstructed passage in the upper digestive tract. On the 22nd of September, at the same Imperial Household Agency Hospital, the emperor received a surgical operation by team of physicians, including Mr. Morioka, Dr. Morioka of Tokyo University. After the operation, the doctor's diagnosis was that it was pancreatitis and inflammation of the duodenum. During the operation, some tissues were taken out of the inflamed part, and this was inspected by pathologists, and At that time, some court physicians said that it was a chronic pancreatitis, but at the same time, already we detected some cells, the cancerous cells for the cancer of the gland. As far as where this cancer originated, we were not able to identify. Our treatment consisted of the following: that first of all, we will not reveal to the emperor the real cause of his death, that is, that the real cause of his illness, that it is cancer. And instead of giving positive treatment such as surgery and so forth, we will be giving passive treatment aimed at prolonging his life as much as possible, and to avoid giving him pain as much as possible. And we also decided that we will not cause him any inconvenience and discomfort because of the treatment he was receiving. After the operation, the team of physicians by the Tokyo University gave him one of the top quality post-operational treatment. And because of their work, there has been no crisis experienced after the operation. His recovery was smooth as expected, and on the 7th of October, he was released from hospital. At that time, one major problem was that he was suffering from anemic condition, that he was not receiving enough nourishment, and third, that he was showing some symptoms of renal insufficiency. However, the emperor gradually recovered a good appetite, and his anemic condition was improved due to blood transfusion given to him in October, and his renal functions returned to normal again.
He was 87 years old. The emperor was on the throne for more than 62 years, the longest reign in Japanese history. He was also the oldest Japanese emperor who ever lived. Crown Prince Akihito immediately acceded to the throne. There will be a traditional ceremony for his accession. The death of the emperor marks the end of the Showa era, an era of turmoil, including the Second World War, the destruction of much of Japan, and a fresh start for peace.
This is Grand Steward Fujimori of the Imperial Household Agency announcing the emperor's death. He says that
his childhood name was Prince Michinomiya Hirohito, which had been chosen for him by his grandfather, the Emperor Meiji. Following the custom of the imperial household in those days, the prince, soon after his birth, was separated from his parents and was brought up under the care of Vice Admiral Sumiyoshi Kawamura and his family until he reached the age of 3. The prince received his elementary education at Gakushuin, the peers' school, under the guardianship of the headmaster, General Marasuke Nogi, whose philosophy of education set great value on simplicity and diligence. After graduating from the elementary course of the Gakushuin, the prince continued his studies at the specially established Togu Gokumonjo, the study hall for the crown prince, for 7 years. There he studied regal principles, which he had to master. When the prince was 15 years old, at the time of his investiture, it was announced to the people of Japan and the world that he was formally the Crown Prince of Japan. At the age of 21, the Crown Prince became the Prince Regent. In 1921, the Crown Prince made a goodwill tour of a number of European countries, a visit that lasted about 6 months. In later days, the emperor was occasionally heard to talk reminiscently about the European tour, saying, "Because my life until then had been more or less like that of a bird in a cage, the trip gave me a chance to have a taste of real freedom in life. In 1924, the year after the Great Kanto earthquake, the Crown Prince married Nakago Kuninomiya, the eldest daughter of Kuniyoshi Kuninomiya, and his wife, Shikako, who were then members of the imperial household. In December 1926, upon the demise of the Emperor Taisho, the Crown Prince ascended to the throne at the age of 25.
With
the start of the Showa era in 1926, the Japanese military began increasing its interference in the nation's politics, and Japan's involvement in warfare escalated in stages from the Manchurian incident to the Sino-Japanese War, and eventually to the Pacific War. It was the decision made by the emperor that brought an end to the long period of hostilities. On August 15, 1945, the emperor himself informed the people across the country through a radio broadcast that the war had come to a close. With the establishment of the new constitution, the status of the emperor underwent a dramatic change, from that of absolute monarch under the old constitution to the symbol of the nation. From 1946, the year after the war, the emperor toured the country to encourage the people in their effort to rise from the ravages the war had brought. Ever since his childhood days, the emperor had been very fond of sumo, the traditional Japanese sport. In 1955 and thereafter, he always looked forward to visiting the Gokugaigen Sumo Stadium to watch the matches every year. After the war, the emperor resumed his biological studies, which had been halted during wartime. The emperor's speciality was the classification of hydrozoa, a member of the coral and jellyfish families. The results of the emperor's biological studies have been compiled into 7 volumes. The emperor, along with the empress, visited Europe in 1971 and the United States in 1975. These 2 overseas trips became for the emperor 2 of the most impressive memories of the years after the war. As Japan increasingly internationalized itself, more and more visits came to be made by state guests and official guests. Through his meetings with these guests from overseas and entertaining them at banquets and other functions, the emperor did his best to help promote friendship between Japan and other nations. In 1986, when the emperor became the longest reigning emperor of Japan, a ceremony was held to commemorate the 60th anniversary of his enthronement.
今ここに昭和の60年の歳月を顧み、先の戦争による国民の犠牲を思うとき、なお胸が痛み、改めて平和の尊さを痛感します。
The emperor was also the longest living in the long succession of emperors of Japan. In his later years, he always looked forward to taking time out from a busy work schedule for pleasant gatherings with Prince Hiro and his other grandchildren. The emperor was once heard to comment that looking back over the 60 years of the tumultuous Showa era, what had always delighted him most was that thanks to the strenuous efforts made by its people, Japan had been able to rehabilitate itself from the ravages of war and to build up the prosperity it enjoys today.
皆の元気な姿に接し、喜ばしく思います。私の健康について心配してくれてありがとう。どうか今年も良い年であるように希望します。
陛下は60年を超える激動の昭和を振り返られて、最も嬉しく思うのは国民の努力で戦後の復興がなり、今日の繁栄を築き上げたことですと話されていました。87年間にわたるご生涯を振り返って。
This was a documentary on the emperor.
ご結婚60周年を迎えられた昭和59年、両陛下は新婚時代の思い出の地、猪苗代湖畔を訪ねられました。ちょうど60年前の夏、両陛下はここに1ヶ月間ほど滞在され、楽しいひとときを過ごされたのです。
今ここに昭和の60年の歳月を顧み、先の戦争による国民の犠牲を思うとき、なお胸が痛み、改めて平和の尊さを痛感します。時代は急速に変貌し、我が国が当面する課題も多いのでありますが、全国民が過去の経験と教訓を生かし、さらに創意を加えてことに当たるならば、必ずや豊かな未来を開くことができると信じます。ここに在60年に際して国民諸君と共に世界の平和と人類の福祉を祈り、新しい希望に満ちた国づくりを見守っていきたいと思います。
一日一日を国の務めとして送っているうちに今日に至ったことを思うと、過ぎ去った月日の流れをしみじみと感じる。そして国民と同様、喜びと悲しみの幾年月であった。 陛下は国民と共に歩んだ激動の日々を振り返ってこう語っておられました。亡くなられた天皇陛下、ご誕生以来明治大正昭和の3代にわたるご生涯はまさに近代日本の激動の歴史そのものでした。